Hello Seawolves and welcome to the show. Are you ready to make another official Seawolf mug toast today? My third time, and well, you know, they say third time is the charm, so I already got my coffee in here, and shall we see what happens? Shall we see what happens today? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, nice. But I didn't see anything. You guys saw something? I don't know, maybe it just didn't work this time. I don't know. Anyway, let's get on with the show, yeah? So let's begin with, of course, the Jules Verne. And pretty exciting, we see that Gitana actually made it 89 nautical miles ahead of IDEX Port at this time. And if I bring you in here, you can actually see that they're at a pretty favorable course also so far. So it didn't have to tack too much. There's a new tack for IDEX Port, you know, the historic path, of course, coming up, which is also kind of advantageous for them. Wind seems good so far, so very nicely outpacing. Now, I did mention it in the show before that it's kind of, you know, this is kind of the slow part for IDEX Port, if you can call any part of a boat that's going an average of 30 knots slow, but they made a lot of tacks in this particular period, so there is a good chance for them to be a little bit faster. And so far a nice distance of about 98 miles built up so far, so that's very good, and no no other real significant news at this time. So for the Jules Verne record, so far so good. Then let's go over to the Vendee Globe, and there we see now that things have changed quite a bit, especially if we look at the situation here with of course Yannick Bestaven and kind of the rest of the hunters that were relatively close to him. Now, over the last few days we talked about the distance between Yannick and Charlie or Thomas, and at some point that was 320 nautical miles. Right now, as I'm taping this, we're down to 97. So lost over 220 or so nautical miles there over the last little bit over 48 hours, so that is big. So this big area with just very low wind really creating problems for the progress. And as you guys can see here, the wind's not getting any more favorable at the time. There's a pretty good piece here. You know, basically I can actually draw these days here, so that'd be kind of nice. So, you know, we can see that the wind direction more or less here just pretty unfavorable also. Like once he's through there, it would be a little bit better, you know, like a slightly easier to kind of get up in that direction. But this particular area, and of course, you know, that goes for there also, it's just no real good way around that. And so we see that the entire field just much more closer together now, but also quite interestingly that the rest of the hunters themselves also a lot closer. So if we look at this, we see more or less the entire front field come together. And we see that while Armel, Tripon and Claresse, Cramer are nicely kind of battling and very close to each other, they together are getting very close to this group of hunters. So actually, let's take a look here. So Armel right now about 310 or so nautical miles away from, I think, Maxime, yeah, from Maxime. 300 nautical miles, so really close. And when all of them get stuck in this weather here, as that develops, like we talked about yesterday, that's going to be some while for that to kind of change. So at least 24 hours or so, as you can see, until the direction here becomes slightly more favorable again. And 24 hours of them more or less being kind of stuck there, while the other two are presumably going to be able to keep their speed up, hopefully. I mean, the direction for them is not really ideal. And again, this prediction line here, you know, not any fault of the people who are making this, by the way. Actually, it just depends on, you know, how much info they get in, but it doesn't seem so correct right now. But I guess good chance for both Armel and Claresse to get a little bit closer still over the next 24 hours before that head group will start to make headway again. And of course, this is a bit of a tricky situation they are in also, but it seems direction-wise, if they keep this direction, that they're going to be, you know, continuing to do pretty good speed, 10, 12 knots or so, making their way, which is nice. Then behind there we have Roman Atanasio doing nicely now, very fast, 15.9 knots. So he kind of came out of the slum and now back into the speed again. And then we have Arnold Bozeris very nicely. He actually was jumping around very hard when passing the Cape, so kind of cool video there. So he was jumping around pretty happily. Of course, if we zoom in a little bit here, we see that Charal now very close to them. So actually going to probably pass them in the next 48 hours or so. So he's very, very close now to in one go going from 16 to 14. So major achievement for Jeremy Bijou there. And of course behind him Pip, who made a nice update, you know, on her situation now also.
Today is going to be a special day because so long as I really don't mess things up, Cape Horn is 150 miles in that direction. We made it! Just, not yet. So, over down here, we can't see anything at the moment, but just 50 miles in that direction is the Chilean coast, and I'm just sort of paralleling it at the moment. And I think you can see the sky behind me. Oh my word. It's just a final good kicking from the Southern Ocean. I've had so many squalls through the night, up and down and up and down, just never ending. No wind, 40 knots, no wind, 30 knots, but I will not be beaten. I'm leaving, and I'm leaving today. Really looking forward to sharing Cape Horn with you all.
Behind them we see that the Stefan Derijon, Didier Costa, and we have Koichiro Shirishi here, all in a lot stronger weather now. So they've been sailing in pretty comfortable weather for the last 4 days or so. And now finally, as they get to the Cape, you can see it here pretty clearly on the recording that they are also now getting into stronger winds. And that is going to continue as they pass the Cape. And or get very close to the Cape, I should say. And then as they kind of pass the Cape, they're going to be seeing, you know, relatively mild weather. And then when they get really close, it'll come back in again. And then as they round the Cape, we'll have some very strong weather kind of right on their heels. So they might get through almost completely unscathed. A little bit on the beginning, strong winds, 30, maybe 40 knots gust. But then as they start to round, almost 15 knots or so. That should be very calm. Maybe we'll actually get some really cool images where we can actually see Cape Horn a little bit better, because so far no real good videos of it actually being visible because of the bad weather. Everybody is staying away quite far from the actual Cape. On the other hand, if this weather is a little bit faster, they might also still get quite some strong weather as they pass the Cape. But looks like, especially since they all were dealing with some damage and having some problems on board, that it might be quite favorable for them to pass most of that area in relatively light weather. So that's kind of good news for them, I guess. Then Manuel Cousin also coming in, but this is kind of 2 days from now, so we're not really too sure on that prediction now. For now, he's just sailing along nicely, and it looks like he'll keep the wind, so he is outside of the storms, and like the 2 days before, for the next 24 to 48 hours or so, just very nice winds between kind of 15 and 25 knots, all pretty much in the right direction. So very nice sailing for him. And then behind him we have Miranda Marin and Clement Giraud, now very close to each other, both a little bit more to the north, as we discussed. A lot of kind of areas with very low wind very close to the ice line, so they're all choosing to stay a little bit higher. And right now in some stronger winds, which should be moving more or less with them, so they should be doing pretty good speeds. Let's see what they're actually doing right now. Yeah, so Miranda's doing 16.7 and Clement is doing 10, but 12 and a half average over the last 24 hours, so pretty good there. And then behind there we have, of course, Aria Heusela sailing along nicely right now, and Alexia Berrier also more or less similar speeds, trying both to kind of avoid this the strongest parts of this system that's kind of flying over them now. They're going to be in it for a while, so this is going to be moving with them also, and looks like at least the next 3 days or so they're going to be in quite strong weather as they get closer to the Cape, maybe even longer, maybe even 4 days. So yeah, I guess they are in for some pretty strong weather. And then all the way in the end, of course, Sébastien Destremeux, but so far seems to be doing good. So a little bit closer to the ice line, as you can see, sailing a nice line, which is also very good, and good speed also. Just a good 24-hour average, 12.3 knots, which for the winds that he was in is absolutely excellent. So yeah, if you can keep the boat in one piece, I think Sébastien is actually sailing along very nicely now. And yeah, that's the overview of where the race is today. So I'm gonna keep it relatively short because I have a lot of other things to do also, but thank you all again for watching. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like my videos. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the new video goes live. By the way, I kind of gone to a more or less fixed time, so I'm trying to you know, go live at around 7 Amsterdam time every day. I'm not saying that it's always going to work, but that's kind of what I'm striving for, so that's kind of good to know. And for all the other info, of course, go to seawolvestv.com. Thanks again for all of your emails about the possible training opportunity, like sailing day with Team Childhood. If you're interested in that, there's a link also to the video when I visited the Childhood below in the comments. If you missed that episode where we kind of go over the Ocean Racer 16.5 boat and kind of do a technical overview of that boat. And so somewhere in the end of March or beginning of April, we're going to see if we may do a kind of training day on board of the Childhood, sailing over here in Holland in the North Sea with that amazing boat. So if you're interested in that, make sure to send an email to contact@seawolvestv.com and put in the title something like V65 training day or something like that, so I know kind of what the topic is, and I'll keep you updated as we know more. Probably, I hope 2-3 days from now I'll have more of an insight into what exactly that program on that day might be and what some possible dates might be. So keep looking out for that. Really looking forward to it. And that's it for the show today. So thanks again very much for watching, and I'll see you all with a fresh, delicious, yeah, I guess it's strange that nothing happened today, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Have a nice day. Ciao.